it was true for so long. Additionally, behind that confession there is a path full of glory, sorrow, and secrets never previously disclosed. Let's find it out. Right now, I am on the verge of losing commitment. You're on there. Blake Shelton displays a deep affection for Gwen Stefani after their sexy Billboard performance at the Music Awards on June 18th. Blake Shelton was born Ada, Oklahoma, in 1976 into a small. It appeared that his early years would solely focus on fields and ancient country music and radio tunes. However, from a star formed on that foundation. From an early age, Blake had a passion for singing. And when he was 12, he clutched a guitar and played his initial chords with the help of his uncle's direction. In the recollections of Blake, a childhood pal was always Theodore, a blonde child who was constantly singing. Whether on the front porch or on the ball field, he met a horrible, and when his brother, the person Blake admired the most, was Richie, the majority perished in a horrific vehicle collision. The wound from that loss never fully healed. Years later, Blake acknowledged, each and every time I take the stage, I recall my brother. That loss is with me forever, and it helped shape me into the man I am now. The Blake was not crushed by anguish. Instead, it turned into inspiration. Following graduation from high school, he made the decision to quit Hishamtown with an antique guitar and a lofty goal on the way to the epicenter of country music is Nashville, a location where thousands of aspirants overwhelmed by the spotlight. Blake was just an identified boy. He strolled around, knocking on doors of a record label, played in jobbers, and agreed to sleep with pals. Couches simply to stay still. In 1997, Blake agreed to a deal with Sony Music. It had appeared as though the dream had materialized, though the harshness of truth was greater. The tune he selected, Ashy's initial single, was turned down by Thelabelle and handed it to a different vocalist to X. That song swiftly gained popularity. #1 hit, leaving Blake behind, disappointed, almost hopeless. Thankfully, Giant Records, a subsidiary business, shut down. Blake was transferred to Warner Brothers, and there, at last, fate grinned. In 2001, his song Austin struck a chord throughout the United States, occupying the top position on the 5-week Billboard country chart. He assumed she had returned to Austin. Blake went from being a nobody to a household name. Stage desired. Austin did not just remain at the top for 5 weeks, but also became into among the most popular first singles in the 2000s. Additionally, the CMA Single of the Year award to Blake Shelton. Blake Shelton's debut album was Swift Lariah certified gold, solidifying a status as a novel occurrence in Nashville. At the time, the press referred to "Here's the New Blonde Cowboy" century as crowds gathered to making Blake's debut album Shelton into a surprising triumph. In the background, there were still shadows. There was disagreement among music critics. He was merely a pretty face, according to some. Would immediately disappear when played on a guitar. Blake was compelled by such derision to demonstrate his not a one-hit miracle. He poured his vitality into his second record, The Dreamer, 2003, then Blake in 2004. Shelton's Barn and Grill pushed more songs to reach the top of the charts. The Dreamer created the popular song The Baby, which held top position for 2 straight. Blake Shelton's Barn, in the meantime, and Grill became platinum certified with Some Beach, which has emerged as one of the most frequently played country songs on the radio. From 2004-2005. Blake's explosion. Nashville as a whole. Although his romantic life was still tumultuous with lots of tears, the dazzling illumination of Hollywood shed light on a totally alternate route where Blake's name started to leave a lasting impression on the history of life into country music and launch a fresh, more brighter chapter than previously. Entered the realm of musical splendor with the rise of his fame. Blake Shelton also started a new phase in his life. He wed Kate Gurn in 2003, his sweetheart from high school, the woman who had supported him through his most difficult Nashville days. The modest wedding in Oklahoma, his native state, appeared to be the start of enduring joy. However, 3 years later, the marriage fell in resentment. The actual cause, numerous sources attested to the fact that during this Blake first encountered Miranda Lambert, the fierce, captivating country music performer. The first time the two met was in 2005, while recording CMT's 100 Greatest Concert of Duets. After only a year, Blake publicly dated after divorcing Kate. Miranda. They were referred to as the Power by the media. A couple of country tunes. They gave a performance, collaborated, composed music together, and walked the red carpet at the CMA Awards alongside AC. However, beneath the glitz, their love was blustery. Miranda was well known for whorage, but Blake seemed relaxed and enjoyed throwing parties. One of the crew members disclosed that disputes can arise just before a performance. However, as they take the stage, they played the ideal couple. In Blake and Miranda tied the knot in an extravagant wedding in Texas that drew more than 500 people, including Reba McEntire and Clarkson. Kelly. The press referred to them as the Brad Pitt and, in country music, Angelina Jolie. However, that relationship terminated after just 4 years in a divorce. The brief press release that was left, fans were surprised to learn that they adopted to take different routes with sorrowful hearts. The statement was accompanied by dipfit. Blake was suspected by Miranda of infidelity, but Blake believed that she was also distrustful and envious. The separation from Miranda was a major surprise. However, if from this point on, Blake was introduced to Gwen Stefani, the woman who would transform his. During that period, Gwen had recently experienced her collapse, married to Gavin Rossdale for 13 years. Backstage at The Voice, the two first met in 2014. Initially, nobody trusted their relationship might succeed. A California-Oklahoma country music and a pop-rock queen cowboy, two seemingly disparate worlds, but suffered from failed marriages together, drew them nearer. From the backstage dialogues to jointly composed songs, slowly, love bloomed. Additionally, for the Blake was spotted for the first time in a long time with a new grin, not the grin of a celebrity, but of a man who was genuinely adored. Speculation was always a part of famous love. Social media was used when the two went public. Erupted with conflicting viewpoints. Gwen was attacked by Miranda's supporters as third party. However, certain tabloids declared that it was only a publicity gimmick for The Voice. However, Gwen and Blake continued to hold hands, acting in public. Go Ahead and Shatter My Heart. Then, after Happy Everywhere and Nobody But You 2020, both rising to the top of the charts. The Blake Shelton's romantic relationship with not only was Gwen Stefani romantic, but also evidence of rebirth following heartache. Additionally, when they strolled alongside each other, another secret started to emerge through the storms. To come into being. A secret connected to the Voice's backstage area, where everything started and where previously untold things were revealed. Where the truth is exposed. On 2011, when The Voice debuted, nobody might have anticipated that the program would perhaps the most significant turning point in the life of Blake Shelton. Prior to that, he was already a well-known country music artist. However, he had never accomplished the degree of worldwide impact. Occupying the cochere made all the difference. Blake was not only a country singer anymore, he turned into the cowboy of America on national TV. Additionally, concurrently, he learned about his Gwen Stefani's fate. Right from the start. Initially, Blake was notable for his direct, funny, and occasionally raw-edge design. He teased all the time. Adam Levine, his co-worker, or changed comments on jokes that made the studio bursts into laughter. Behind the jokes, however, was a very devout. His loyalty was demonstrated by remarkable outcomes. Blake emerged as the Voice's most successful coach, history molding winners such as Cassidy, Bradbury, Pope Danielle, and Sundance. By 2023, season 23, he had obtained 9 more titles than anybody else, and was the sole coach present at 3 seasons in a row. For competitors, he evolved to become more than just a coach. Some even referred to him as a musical father. However, when the cameras ceased to roll, another tale subtly grew: the affection between Gwen and Blake. Gwen Stefani came on board. The Voice in 2014. Her platinum blonde hair is stunning. She was a fashionista with a pop rock vibe. A welcome change of pace among the non. Initially, the two merely exchanged tales of heartache following a divorce. However, slowly, friendship evolved into music, and love was born out of music. Audience wondered whether this was true love or only a marketing gimmick for The Voice. Blake didn't give speeches in response, but he smiled quietly as he put his arm around his wife, seemingly implying that love itself was thieved. What started out as a TV program became a lot more. Blake Shelton is not only confirmed his reputation as a world celebrity, but also transformed his partnership into living proof of the truth's power, loyalty as well as second chances. Additionally, the narrative doesn't stop there, because beyond the public appearances and love songs resides Blake's lasting legacy, departing to listen to country music and for American society, a legacy that endures. The legacy of Blake Shelton cannot be quantified only through television, charts, or award. Its power is found in the way he brings the nation back to the basics. In the digital age, Americans seem to forget a good tale, a tune that's a warm baritone that is soothing and simple to hum and causes it to sing along in a bar. The chorus, people in Shelton noticed uncommon, handwritten, high-quality lyrics such as common speech, distinct song forms, controlled tempos that allow the narrative to take the lead. He doesn't make an effort to transform the vocabulary. He keeps it safe. So recollections of mud, porches and backyards, roadways and vintage radios maintain a space taller in popular music. A significant portion of that heritage is found in the craft of narrative. Shelton frequently uses one image as axis of emotion, a missed call echoed, an uncomfortable date, and then turn the whole song centered on that particular feature. Rather of contemplating, he silently inventories emotions. Who was the first to speak? Who stopped talking? Somebody left. Musicians in Nashville refer to it as Blake's phrases, lock, the pocket, and the groove are so closely that the vocalist seems to he is just over-talking the band. The tone a clear signature as well. Shelton doesn't show off his baritone range, it depends on hardness and temperature in the center. He frequently permits traditional steel violin and pedal speaking acoustically in the rest areas, while the primary melody is carried by the voice. In this way, the development of a track can be altered or a rock, add pop trim, or allude to Southern soul without surrendering its national identity. Producers view Shelton as Oncha Tamba. After he finishes speaking, the recording returns to its southern location. Coordinates. In terms of work ethic, Blake is referred to as a long-distance athlete. Tight sessions, consistent rehearsals, and fewer. He maintains a crew that has remained 4 years with him. Audio of the band tour, manager, engineers, so the sound is constant and becoming thinner. His travels. The idea is to let the song take center stage. The fireworks. Less impact, more contact, microphones positioned near the audience, organic humor interwoven with evoke a common memory. In the Midwest stadiums, that limitation results in a focused rules setting. Singing together is preferred by audiences. Overwatch. Technical showmanship instead. Beyond Shelton constructed a stage and studio. Community-focused rural environment. The historic red locations are not just theaters that feature live music. There are platforms for aspiring singers. On numerous evenings, viewers see brand new individuals speaking up about the same stage where a star might fall the following day on acoustic performance. They consume food, beverages. A living loop is produced using the listen model. Performers get paid, and fans create a listening to live music, and local weekend occupations are beneficial to communities as well as travel. That is a problem for tiny towns. Soft boost over the long term is more important than one spectacular performance that ends. Shelton makes an impression as well, with altruism that is based at home. When natural catastrophes affect Oklahoma, and people watch him arrive, make a support call, plan charity events and raise money for rescue apparatus, or support local health and educational initiatives, he doesn't stage at them for the sake of publicity. A lot of work goes into solidly recounted by the neighborhood, a fresh school music room and a scholarship fund for pupils interested in the arts. A visit to young patients who don't press by itself. These parts progressive likery, the appearance of a well-known neighbor, not a far-off star, not as much talked about, but his function as a behind-the-scenes. Outside of the stages, every Onio serves. Shelton frequently shows up at songwriting workshops, bringing in young writers to sit with experts in the field. Hayes fond of the 3-hour one-song rule, with short deadline that allows feelings to take over. This keeps one from losing sight of technique. For novice authors, one shared credit may serve as a pass to the Nashville ecosystem. Here, a network is the heritage. He opens the door of the writer's room, and the following generation provides more opportunities for those who come after. In popular culture, Shelton supports the average American. The firm, the boots, and the cap, the kind grin, the handshake, and the talent for disparaging oneself. He doesn't confine the nation's sentimentality by selecting songs, performance, and arrangements. He transports the nation through the contemporary moment without being lost. Still appealing hook for streaming and radio. Still suitable for a driving groove playlist. There is still space for the steel dot to ring the guitar. In numerous households, his songs are now gentle rituals. The wedding's opening song, the music for a reunion, the tune for a drive across the state. In the end, legacy is the practice of coexisting with a voice. Local pride is another pillar. Shelton doesn't advocate for identity. He brings it along, allowing viewers to identify items. In between jokes on stage, Henham's the high school squad, the town, the nearby eatery. Off stage, his Zion's school-wearing supporters' jersey shoes. His involvement in the community culture boosts local economies around, displays and creates recollections for the next generation. Individuals who discover that a well-known artist may go back to a tiny city and perform as though on Thepage in the backyard. Creatively and as a professional, Shelton adheres to Nashville's live honoring of artisan standards and strands. Give credit to composers and minimally corrected record to maintain the breath of a human. He gives the band encouragement. The idea is to play less and listen more. It makes room in the mixture and possess the central vocal. His life engineers to push the mids pull according to the effects. Shelton's top of the lyric is always the most important part of Nation. Beyond the realm of creative enterprise Old Red, he shares meals with beverage labels associated with agriculture and the way of life in the South, led by a brand philosophy of storytelling. The objective is not only to market goods, but also to sell experience. Listen to a tune at the location, enjoy a specialty cuisine at Doget, a souvenir from the restaurant. Thelop with multiple touches that prolongs Thelop outside of the stage, for this is a sustainable form of entertainment. Model. Artists don't depend on just one income source, and fans receive numerous methods for taking part. At last, Blake Shelton's kind legacy is the way he handles those in his immediate vicinity, honoring commencement, sinking family time into the crew's timetable, giving up the limelight, saying no when it benefits the Huleto what his compass does not dictate. The picture of a man singing real life. True love isn't a catchphrase. ICO's up on a more condensed tour schedule, so the half-step he takes will get him home. Back to let the group to bow, and an 8-text message check-in to a former partner years following their most recent project. These things don't garner much media attention, however they generate positive word of the most valuable money in a tiny community called Nashville. As soon as the music stops, what's left isn't a series of numbers. One or a record at the box office, but having the ability to call your own name within a song. Blake Shelton has given to a lot of people for a long time. That is the reason why his legacy doesn't have to loud. It is constructed from memories and persists. Custom, family, and a baritone that continues to drive on long routes.